You got to step back and look at the big picture. The S&P's got the worst start since 1970, so we're witnessing the birth of a new industry during the worst financial crisis of 50 years.
Do it! Just do it!
If you roll the clock back to 1900, there were 3,000 car companies. When Spindletop was discovered in Beaumont, Texas in 1901, 1,500 oil companies were launched in a single year. Lots of them went bust, 99%, but the rest is history. We've got cars. Oil business is a huge business. It changed the future of the world. And if you look back 100 years, no one's going to remember who made money or losing money building New York City. And I think that people that understand Bitcoin understand that this is the same thing. This is a totally new industry. First principles. Bitcoin is digital energy. It's incorruptible, indestructible, programmable. It lasts forever. And, the average person has to sift through thousands of stocks, thousands of coins, thousands of investment properties. All of these have risk. There's a lot of confusion. But one thing we're not confused about is that Bitcoin's 100 times bigger than the next digital energy network. It's the dominant one. And, if you're looking at it as an investor, well, what is your choice? You can't dollar cost average into commercial real estate. You can't stockpile oil for the next decade. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is something that you can accumulate monthly. You can keep it for your entire life. And so it's fundamentally different than anything that's come before it. The people are confused about what's a currency, what's a commodity, what's a security, what are tokens. There's 19,000 cryptos out there. I think we can see in the crypto crash that the average investor has been taken advantage of by traders and by wildcat crypto banks. And as the regulators come in and they clear up this confusion and they introduce rules of the road, it's going to be good for mainstream investors. It's going to be good for corporations. It will catapult the industry from the entrepreneurial offshore anything goes stage into a institutional mature asset class. Well, I think the challenge is if you wait for a decade for everything to be cleared up, the price of Bitcoin is going to be 10 or 100x more than it is right now. So you have to choose whether or not you want to enter knowing that there are about a dozen things that are going to mature the asset class and make it more transparent, or whether you want to wait for all those things to take place and then pay a much higher price when it does. And everyone has to decide where they're going to land there. But Julia, let me make one big point. The flight to safety is a grand illusion. You don't have the choice to do nothing and comfortably move forward. For example, the true inflation rate in all of our currencies runs 7% in the best years, 14% in bad years, and 20% or more in a crisis. The yen has weakened against the dollar 19%, the Great British Pound 12%, and the euro 10% just year to date. So if you put all your money in a currency bank account and then you had to go buy oil, which is up 33%, or wheat, which is up 32%, what you found is the safe, risk-free strategy is resulting in you paying 50% more in local currency for the things you have to eat and you have to use in order to keep from freezing to death. So there's no safe haven. Yeah, if you're looking for something in the next 3 months, clearly you have to sit in currency, but you're losing 20, 30, 40% of your value sitting in the currency. Bitcoin's gone through 3 boom and bust cycles in the last 2 years. But if you zoom out, look at the 5-year picture. Bitcoin's up 50% a year in the last 5 years, 50% a year for the past 2 years, 120% a year in the past 10 years. That's 10x better than NASDAQ. That's 5 to 10x better than pretty much any other option. So if you're wanting peace and calm in the near term, there is no safe haven. The long bond is down 23% year over year. So what you have to do is decide, are you going to stay on a sinking ship, or are you going to get on a lifeboat and be tossed about on the stormy seas? And Bitcoin represents that lifeboat, and it's hope for everybody in the world if you can take the long view and focus on the fundamentals. So, Julia, if the currency collapses by 90% over the course of a decade, then the smartest thing you can do is have debt on your balance sheet. So, what MicroStrategy did is borrow $2.2 billion at a blended interest rate of 1.8%. The
That's cheap
junk
money.
bond yield rate is 8.5% right now. So, and the inflation rate is running 8% CPI, but probably 15% or more if you look at other assets, and 30% against commodities. So we took a debt position paying effectively 1 to 2% interest on long-term debt. Most of it, in fact, none of that debt I mentioned is collateralized by Bitcoin. It's not mark-to-market debt. We have a very thin layer, like 200 million against a multi-billion-dollar balance sheet, which we have to collateralize, and we're 10x over collateralized. So
Right.
our balance sheet is great. Our position is when the inflation rate is running dramatically higher than the interest rate, you're better off to be a debtor than to be a creditor.